Hello, Theodora Otsu here, and we are still running the series on important documents that every SME needs to have in their data room, especially if you're looking to raise funds. And we have talked about the financial projections, we have talked about the business plan. Today, we're going to be looking at a very critical document that weighs even higher than the business plan when it comes to fundraising. And I will tell you why it is so. You see, the business plan is a very, very detailed and bulky document that talks about the entire process and system structure of the business. So it is a bulky and detailed document. Now, when investors put out their call for application out there, you have over 1,000 entries. And so because of how bulky the business plan is, it makes it very difficult and impossible for them to be able to go through even 100 of these documents. And so what is the solution to this? It is no other than the pitch deck. Yes, the pitch deck. Now, what is a pitch deck? A pitch deck is a concise visual presentation used by businesses, by SMEs, to communicate their business ideas, their performance and growth potentials to investors, to partners, and even to lenders or grant providers, right? The pitch deck actually tells the business story in a clear, in a concise, structured, and compelling way that will help investors make decisions quickly because they understand what the business is about, what it does, why it matters, and why it is worth supporting. So you see, the pitch deck goes straight to the point to bring out the important elements of your business to the investor. Now, there are different components of a pitch deck. Also note that the pitch deck is usually not more than 10 to 12 slides. It is prepared in a slide format, and we established that it's a visual document. So it has a lot of pictures that is helping you tell the story of your business. So what are the key components of a pitch deck? The key components of a pitch deck is, first, the pitch deck must have a cover slide that contains your logo, the business name. If you have a tagline, for example, I will always say, "No bill should ever take you unaware." That's a tagline for my company, Giselle Kobe Concepts. So that's a tagline. If you have it, you put there. Then it also contains your contact information. That is your number, the name of the founder, your website, email address, so that from the very first page they already know how to contact you. The next component of the pitch deck is the storytelling, right? In the pitch, it is very important to have a compelling story. So there's one of my mentees, and she has one of the most compelling story that catches me, gives me goosebumps every time I hear about it. And it's simple. They say water is life, but water took my sister's life. With such a hook statement, every investor, your audience, will be interested in knowing the full gist. They want to know what the story is, they want to know what the problem is, and they want to know what solution you're offering to a problem that actually took your sister's life. So in telling your story, you need to have your hook line that captures the attention of the audience, and then use that to build your story. Your story actually helps tell investors your passion or motivation, or the reason, the why behind starting that business. The next component of the business plan is the problem statement. This is where you tell us the clear market problem or the gap that your business is solving. The next is the solution or the products or services. This is where you tell us what solution are you offering, what product are you selling, what services are you bringing to the market to solve that problem, and how unique is that solution that you're offering to us. The next thing we have is the market opportunity, right? When we talk about the market opportunity, we're looking at your target market, which talks about the total addressable market, your serviceable available market, and the serviceable obtainable market, right? So the term, the SAM, and the sum. You're also talking about under the market opportunity, you're talking about your customer segment. Who are your target market? We need to know, and the market size, like I just explained earlier. So we also have the next component of the pitch deck, which is the business model. How does the business make money? How many stream of income does this business have? So you talk about the pricing, the revenue streams under the business model. Then we look at the traction and performance. What have you achieved in terms of sales, your customer, your partnership, your growth metrics, your pilots? Even if you have a CSR, we want to know what the business has achieved over time, and that is tucked under the traction and performance. Also, you might want to put the SDGs that you're supporting under your traction and performance. Then we also have the go-to-market strategy. What is your strategy for customer acquisition? What is your strategy for marketing your product or service? What is your distribution approach? We want to see it in the go-to-market strategy. Then we have the competitive landscape. Who are your competitors? Most times investors want to know that you really know your market, you really know who you are competing against. What is your competitive advantage over the people that are already in this business? That's another aspect that investors want to know. They want to see your team. Who is the founder? Who are the key team members? Highlighting their relevance and their experiences to that business. Then they also want to see the financials. It is coming up again. So now, do you see why we talked about the financial projection first? So you want to see the growth rate of your company financially. What's the historical performance? If you have it, you put it there. And then what are the financial projections? Where are you aiming to be in the next 3 to 5 years, especially when these funds are ingested into your company? So they want to see this. Now, how much are you asking for? That is the funding ask or support required. How much do you need? What is the funds going to be used for? So most times when you say we're looking to raise $1 million, you need to tell us, okay, 50% is going to be used to acquire property and plants, and all that. So when you have told us how much you need, tell us what you need these resources for, and tell us the expected outcome if you get this funding. Then you need to also look at your impact and your vision where applicable. So impact and vision, you talk about the social impact, the environmental impact or economic impact, and the long-term vision of the company. So these are the main components that every pitch deck should have. But note that you shouldn't just end with telling them all this. The last slide, which is the thank you slide, should also contain the call to action. Call them to action, invite them, tell them you're looking forward to discussing this opportunity further with them. So what are the importance of a pitch deck quickly? Now, one, a pitch deck helps you gives you access to capital. So you have access to lenders, to investors, to grant funders, because they often require pitch deck, as I've explained, as the first screening tool, not your business plan. When they have seen your pitch deck and they are satisfied with it, then they will request for your business plan. The next is it gives clarity of business direction. Preparing a pitch deck forces SMEs to clearly define their strategy, their market, and their financial goals. It also gives you credibility and professionalism. So a well-structured pitch deck positions the business as an organized, investable, and growth-ready business. So it helps in decision. It's a decision-making tool for investors, for founders, for the management team, for lenders, and all that. And above all, it helps you sell the entire story of your business in a very short document. So these are some of the importance of the pitch deck and why it's weighs higher than a business plan. It is the first tool. It's like your CV. So the pitch deck is the CV of every SME, of every business. If you want to learn more about pitch deck, don't just drop a message behind. We have trained a lot of people in pitch practice, in crafting a killer pitch deck, and even going into the deck room. And we are proud to say that we have produced results, verifiable results of people that have raised funds through our training and pitch practice session. If you're interested in coming on board our pitch practice session, drop a message on the comment section below. Don't forget to share this with your friends, with your family. Share, like, subscribe, and comment. See you next week when we talk about the next important document that needs to be in your data room. Until then, cheers.